Hi, today we're going to talk about how can you tell if a graph, a table, or an equation is a function. So let's start with a graph. For a graph, we have what is called the vertical line test. That just means if you can draw a line straight up and down at any point on the graph, and that line that you just drew only crosses the graph one time, then yes, it is a function. If the graph or if that line crosses the graph more than one time, then no, it is not a function. So, for example, here's my greatly drawn coordinate plane. If I have a line there, maybe it's a linear graph, and I'm going to draw a line straight up and down at this point, it only crosses the graph one time. This point, it only crosses the graph one time. This point, it only crosses at one time. So yes, this graph is a function. If I look at something like this, maybe I'm looking at like a whole bunch of points, because, sometimes graphs just are a whole bunch of points. And I'm going to draw my vertical line test. Here it's only 1 point. Here it's only 1 point. I can keep checking, but over here, it was 2 points, which means no, this one is not a function. Now, you're not allowed to just say, well, I checked this point, it crossed once, so yes, it's a function. You have to look and see, is there any place that I could choose that's going to cross 2 times? So you can't just pretend that this part is not here. You have to check it also. So again, maybe we're looking at something like this. Now, if we have a lot of points, but I look around and see, oh, it doesn't look like there's any place where I can draw that line straight up and down and it'll cross 2 times. So yes, this one's a function. And some of them are going to be really obvious, like this. Obviously, if you draw a line straight up and down, it's going to cross 2 times. So this one is not a function. So that's telling if a graph is or is not a function. Next, let's look at how to tell if a table is or is not a function. Usually a table is going to have an X or a Y, but what's most important is your input and your output. Okay, so if you have like in context, then your input's usually something like time and your output is something like distance or something like that. But what matters is that each input has only one output. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, as long as these all, each time you see the number 1, it has the same answer. So like if I put a 1 down here again, I'll show you what I mean. So like let's just say it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 3. Well, the number 1 should have only one output. The output is 3. Let's check it down here again. Oh, the output is 3. We are still golden. The number 2, the output is 4. The number 3, the output is 5. And the number 4, the output is 6. We are golden because each time I put in an X, I know the outcome is one specific number. Now let's look at another table. What if I have something like this? I could do the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. This time, what if I have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Now I could look at 2, 3, and 4 and say, oh, cool. If I put in a 2, I know the output's a 4. If I put in a 3, I know the output's a 5. If I put in a 4, I know the output's a 6. But if I put in a 1, what's my output? I don't know. Is it a 3? Is it a 7? I do not know what is the output. So this one is not a function, but this one was a function because even though this number 1 showed up 2 times, the answer was 3 both times. So I knew what it was. Now, most commonly, it's not going to show this. Most commonly, it's just going to look like that. And those are great because, yes, that is a function. So we've done a graph. We've done a table. An equation is so much more difficult to explain because there are so many different types of equations. The main thing you need to know is if you graph your equation or if you make a table for your equation, then it should be able to either pass the vertical line test or the inputs of the table should have only one output. So like some basic examples are linear equations. Anything that's a linear equation, yes, that's going to be a function because that's some kind of straight line, however it looks. You know what? Things that you probably have not seen before, something like this, but yes, those are going to be a straight line, or sorry, Those are going to pass the vertical line test because they look something like here. But there are other things that are not going to. For example, the square root of any number, because the square root of any number has two answers. If I take the square root of 64, the answer is 8. That's commonly known. The answer is also -8. So boom, there are two outputs. So this one is not a function. So most commonly what you'll do is either graph it or make a table and tell if either yes or no it passes the graph or the table requirements. That is determining if a graph, table, or equation is a function.